Welcome to IMC Live, the interactive webinar series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. We're here to help you make connections, learn, get results for your business. And I'm Peyton Warren, the marketing director at the industrial marketing agency Gorilla 76 and one of your IMC Live hosts today. And you know what, Alan? I'm just feeling excited, festive, maybe. Alan, what'd you say?
You have the spirit in you.
Yes, I feel it. And I know, the reason why is because we're following tradition for the third year running now, where we've saved the final show of the year to bring in a big old troop of gorillas. I believe that's what we're called, a troop, for a special Ask Me Anything episode. And that means that we don't really know what we're going to talk about. So buckle up, everybody. If you're one of the, let's see, we've got 45 folks in the room already. Oh, 46, 47, admit. Then, we want to know we want to answer questions that you have. So we're really at your mercy and we can just get started that way. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Can be anything marketing related, gorilla related, industrial summit related. I don't know, whatever you want to talk about. We're here for it. You can ask me about my Christmas background for all I care. But we also have some seed questions we can get started with. Let's see. Big question. Who do we talk to about getting Peyton a t-shirt cannon for IMS?
Dindar, I guess that would be who you need to talk to first. Then maybe John Franco. That's probably the most sympathetic ear in the company, just to be honest.
I want to know where I would fire the t-shirt cannon. I guess at the parties. The parties would be a good venue for that. We are going to be in a larger room this year with an actual like stage that we're building. So that feels more like a concert venue sort of thing. So maybe a t-shirt cannon would be good for that. It'll be a deep room.
Yeah. And Mary had a question in here that she says she can't come on live to talk about, but I might need a little bit more information to understand exactly what we're talking about. But she asked, what are your thoughts on Simu Live, recorded webinars or half recorded, half live versus live webinars?
So you're saying, Mary, that this is like you record it almost like in one take, but without an audience? Has anyone else heard of Simulive?
That's what I would think. It would be like a late night show kind of format where they record it in the afternoon, but they air it as if it's live in the evening.
Yeah, I think general thoughts. I think it depends on who your audience is. With Industrial Marketing Collective Live, we really enjoy the live show, and we actually modeled this show off of Demand Generation Live, which is no longer running, but by another agency called Refine Labs. We were doing a webinar and we were doing it in one take, traditional, like no camera sort of thing. And then we were still posting that on YouTube. So I guess it was like live in a sense, like, unscripted, like this show is. But I think what makes this particular show work is the audience engagement. Like the fact that we can even do an Ask Me Anything episode is kind of unique. So I think like I said, depending on who your audience is, if you think you're going to get the engagement, live shows could be really great for you. We're going to get questions. But if you want a little bit more control of the situation or maybe the ability to make edits, you could consider a more traditional format. That still sounds live. and has that authentic flair to it. Anyone else have thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right on there. I mean, we were just talking about for the Missouri Association of Manufacturers show we got coming up, whether we could do this live at that event and but not really have it live. And we decided that if this wasn't going to work out, because the whole thing about this community is that it is primarily about the community, and trying to take that into a pre-recorded session or to try to mix other communities in there just didn't feel like it was gonna be true to the program or deliver the value that we promise here. Whereas with our other podcast, we have a little bit more freedom to do that pre-recorded thing because it's not expected to be pre-recorded and not have that live input that just makes this so valuable, in my opinion. We had another question in the chat from Matthew Olson. If you would like to come on board here and speak to us.
I expect Matthew to come on with a background for sure. Like,
I am wildly disappointing you, Peyton. I apologize. Um, no, the one of the big things that we're hearing from a lot of people is, man, 2024 just did not knock it out of the park. A lot of businesses are down, not looking like things are going to be great for 2025. So, what would you kind of go to them to say, okay, here's a few places where we think you should start looking at ways to kind of inject some life into everything.
I've definitely been feeling this. Feels like energy all around is like lower. And folks are just like, I don't know, just trying to get some traction again. Um, I think the best place to start, and I would really be curious because we have like Eddie on the call, I just saw you here too, like your opinion on energy and like kind of getting the excitement back into programs. But I really want to start with like collaboration and like kind of bringing in other teams and getting ideas flowing again. So, like if you're feeling in the marketing seat, you're spinning your wheels, just remember you don't have to do it all yourself. This would be a really good time to say, maybe we have a touch point with our sales team that's out there talking to customers all the time. When's the last time we really sat down and figured out what's working, what questions folks are asking the sales team, what's different about what folks are asking us now versus what I thought they were asking us last year, and just starting almost over with some of those foundational pieces, because things change constantly. We said at the top of the show, like the ever-changing world of marketing. I think that, your audience, your customers, what they need next year is not going to be exactly the same as what they needed last year. So you have to keep a finger on the pulse and continue to adjust your program to answer that call. Otherwise, it's going to lose relevance. And I think you'll continue to lose traction. Um, but yeah, anyone else have thoughts?
I would just say that from a messaging perspective, you got to just take that anxiety and that loss aversion head on and try to play that as a part of your strengths and how your program can help prevent those kind of anxieties from increasing as opposed to, being seen as just another part of the budget that is, creating additional stress. You can do that for your outside messaging as well as your internal messaging, well, kind of to Peyton's point.
Yeah. And Karen, who's already been asking some great questions in the chat, she also said, having someone challenge me to question everything has led for some exciting changes for us in 2025. And I think that's like exactly it, right? I mean, Karen, if you want to share a little bit more about like your perspective and what's happened, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. I'm happy to give my sort of testimony. So I've been sharing monthly data about our email marketing and where we're at. And Nobody really knew what to do with the open rates or the data or whatever. And so I had someone really challenge me, a business lead, and he said, Karen, I don't really know what this means. And is this worth the money that we're putting into this? So that really stuck with me. And I went back and dove into everything that we were doing and what we couldn't do. And it led to now I got rid of that marketing platform. Well, I'm getting rid of that marketing platform. I'm getting into a new one that can do so many more things. And so we figured out just that one question really sparked in me. Instead of taking it as a criticism, which I normally would do, I took it as a, well, let's really look at this. And is this program, it's doing it for 2 years, but, and it's doing what it should, but there's so much more. And so now everyone is so excited. We're linking and interconnecting with our ERP system, things in the future. And it's just, so next year is really, we're all really excited about next year, even though some of our businesses didn't do so great this year. And my tree's in front of me. So let me see if I can flip my
Oh,
camera.
yes.
Show you. I have a great tree that I look at every day.
That is a great tree.
Yeah, it's like off color. I like to do it off color, outside of your red and green tree.
Mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just my tree at home.
Matthew, you said you had a follow-up question too?
Yeah, real quick, because we ran into this fairly recently when, like you said, not having a great year, and I loved what she had just said about like having someone challenge that. What do you do when you have someone who wants to regress? Saying, hey, you guys have been doing this all year, things like that. We did not have a great year. Maybe we need to go back to the old way of doing things. How do you in kind of, I don't want to say squash that, but how do you kind of get them to embrace that, no, this is the direction we need to keep going? 3 steps forward, 2 steps back still puts you 1 step ahead net.
Yeah.
How do you make that argument?
Well, folks are comfortable with what they know works, even if it was maybe slow, or maybe they're tied to metrics that aren't truly impactful. I think I would ask, like, all right, if we're going back, what's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? Are you going back to email newsletters when you had stopped doing them in the past? Why? What are we trying to get out of this? Like, it's okay to go back to a program that maybe you've tested in the past and give it another go, but definitely think about, like, how are you going to attack it differently, because you moved away from it intentionally, right? Unless you just stopped, I don't know, because there was like maybe some internal change, and someone who used to, for example, like run your podcast is no longer there anymore, so the podcast just stopped. And like, unless there's some reason like that. But I would just say, whatever you're going to start doing in 2025, make sure you understand what you're trying to achieve with it, and then build your strategy out from there, to help you get there. Kind of a broad answer, I suppose.
Yeah, and we've also been kind of experimenting with how to tell that story of overarching success despite short-term losses, and try to use either visual storytelling or something like that to help people understand, like, yeah, this is a temporary dip and what will over time eventually continue to work just like we thought. But there's always going to be bumps in the road, and it feels like some people let that bump in the road take the whole car down when you just got to keep driving.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of scared to answer this question, but from Eddie in the chat, best lead gen tactic of 2024. What do we think, folks?
LinkedIn ads, of course.
Yeah, I think in 2024 I had a few clients where we went heavier in Facebook, actually, because of the type of like user they were trying to get after. I think what I saw in 2023 that made me do this change was the reach on LinkedIn was super low. So like say you're targeting, an audience of 20,000 people. Well, if less than 10% of them are getting online, that's less than 2,000 people that you're able to get in front of and you're paying for, and LinkedIn's just kind of expensive. So what we looked at was building similar firmographic audience to what you see on LinkedIn using a tool like metadata, and pulling that over to Facebook. And we saw that the reach was a lot better on Facebook. I think the similar thing between Facebook and LinkedIn, though, was still like having a strong retargeting strategy. Because if your goal is to get leads, you're looking for people who are not just like learning about you for the first time necessarily, but folks who are ready to engage with you and who are interested in raising their hands to talk to sales, like the right kinds of people. So I think, like, generally speaking, retargeting in general was the best place where I saw the best leads coming through. And developing programs there where we were looking at kind of doing like top performer campaigns. So in your cold audience, you're running and doing a lot of message testing, and then you find what's really like resonating, what's getting the most engagement there in terms of like reach, impressions. Great, awareness. You're happy with that. Okay, so you take what you're learning in those cold campaigns, and then you get like the winners and you put them in a retargeting campaign where the audience is going to be a lot smaller, but they've already shown a different level of intent. And you're just making sure that they're going to see those best ads at a higher frequency. So yeah, I guess I gained some traction that way with a few of my clients. Kind of rambly.
Being able to separate out your messaging based on, where in the funnel those clients are or those potential customers are, is definitely important. You can do a lot more with a call to action campaign and the retargeting than you could at a cold audience, for example. So we have some questions about Quora or Reddit, and was it worth experimenting with, from Jared Beasley. And this has been a topic that's been in the C team lately over at Gorilla. So I wonder what other people are thinking, but we've been Reddit curious, I would say, over here. We've talked to people that said that they just organically have, communicated through it, and been able to get some traction that way, almost in the way that you used to rely on your website to do, back in the old school SEO days. And it's interesting, but it's difficult for us on an agency level to really find the best strategy on an organic level to help with that. But I'd be curious to see what other people's experiences have been on that, because mine are fairly limited.
Yeah. So Alan, like, I'm Nihal, by the way, if you guys don't know me, I'm also a writer at Gorilla. And basically in the C team, we've been talking about Reddit, especially, and this was really inspired by a conversation I had with Rich Ward, who was on IMCL probably about a month ago. But he was on the podcast, The Manufacturing Marketer, which is the podcast that me and Aaron do. And he was talking a lot about his experience working on Reddit, and it sounded extremely compelling to me. So basically, he was talking about how essentially as a marketing manager for a ergonomic mat company, what he does is he looks at all of like the relevant subreddits for where he thinks that his audience is, and he repurposes the content that he's already making for his own marketing stuff onto those platforms, right? So he might respond to a post by like saying like, oh, like I wrote something about this here. He's very upfront about like the fact that he works for a company that's involved in the space, because people on Reddit don't like, the suspicion here of, am I being sold something?
Mhm.
Um, he did mention too that, Reddit advertising is still kind of a black box. Like it's not exactly a great way it doesn't have the same like trackability that you can find on LinkedIn or Facebook. But to me, it sounded extremely compelling in the sense that, um, the way that people use the internet these days, they're mostly just saying like, if they're interested in buying something, they'll be like, where should I like top 5 best pumps? And they'll look at and often the first search result is Reddit if they're not plugging in Reddit into the search bar, because the Google algorithm is a little bit funkier than it used to be, right? So I felt really convinced by his argument here that being on Reddit is a really smart decision, at least tracking the subreddits that you should be on. And essentially just understanding that this is part of the buyer's journey now, right? That when people, before people buy things, they're looking for other customers and seeing what other people think, and they're on Reddit looking for that. So, I'd recommend listening to the podcast. I don't want to like plug my own podcast here, but like it was a really good conversation. And if you're interested in Reddit marketing in general, I'd say it's a good place to start for sure. And also Rich is open to talking about it too. So if you want to connect with him on LinkedIn, Rich Ward, it's a good place to hear from someone who's first experience too.
Yeah, thanks, Nihal. That's great. Yeah. Anyone else been experimenting with Reddit out there in the wide world of sports, or Quora? All right. Well,
I've been using Reddit a little bit to do a little bit of customer research. So someone else mentioned like they see Reddit popping up in Google a lot, and it's almost that's kind of how I search, and I try not to use like my own tendencies to just make assumptions about I don't know the general market, but I don't know, it's something interesting that whenever I want to know like something in like with real life experience attached to it, I'll type into Google, how often should I be feeding my 8-month-old solid foods? Reddit, you know, and then you get a whole list of like real life experience that you can use to shape what you're going to do next. So the same thing could be said about like what do machinists think about underwater cutting? Reddit, and it kind of pulls up that thread. So I don't know, like that's another way you could use it. I don't think it's as like I think what Nihal was saying and what Rich has been doing is he's using it a little bit as like a distribution channel and a little bit, well, not even distribution, but like thought leadership distribution, like educational support. But you could also be using it to say, what do folks care about, kind of following that same like they ask you answer methodology, and finding content ideas, finding things that your product might provide that you didn't realize were special but folks really appreciate.
yeah. So we had a really rich conversation going on in the chat that Noel started about the company celebrating 20 years next year and some content ideas to help celebrate it. And a lot of people had some cool ideas they had. So it would be cool to bring that up front for everybody. Noel, if you want to talk about it.
I sure can, and actually it's pronounced Noel,
Oh,
so
I'm sorry. I'm
all
sorry. I was
good, all
nervous
good.
about that.
I've heard that all my life. I'm
It's
fine with it. Just
at this point, Noel, it's like a IML lore. If you pronounce your
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I should have had
Yeah.
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up, Alan. Yeah, so next year's a big milestone for us, especially within the robotic integration world. We started off as I think it was like a 4-man team, and now we're up to almost 70. So we've grown significantly within the past 20 years. But a lot of these responses have just been great refreshers and reminders, because I'm an idiot, I guess, because whenever someone had posted press releases, I was like, duh, that's like one of the most common ones. Like I should have thought of that. I don't know how it slipped. But no, someone had actually also, I think it was Ashley, And she also sent a link if y'all want to check it out too. But creating a wall of just the achievements within the company buildings, I think that's a great idea. But yeah, I'm just open really to any ideas and just any kind of unique or interesting ways to really kind of capture that milestone, because 20 years is 20 years. Even 5 years is significant, and having 20 is just big for us.
Yeah, were there any other ideas out there that people wanted to talk about? I know, of course, company swag is always great. Everyone loves to get that.
Oh
I
yeah, we
mean,
definitely talked about that at the couple weeks ago. So in the mix.
Alan, I was thinking like it would be cool to do kind of like a year in review-esque thing, but like 20 years in review. That could be really cool. Um, and making a whole like book of that or like an album. Um, and it doesn't have to be like super fancy, but just having something in print that you could either pass out to employees or I don't know, like long time clients, customers, that kind of thing, just to show um, like a timeline of from where you guys started and where you guys are at now. Um, that's really fun. I I don't know. I feel like people tend to just like physical copies of things in this digital age where like it's a nice coffee table book to have. Um, and just exploring like all of those um milestones, I guess, all the way up to 20 years. And that's something that you could do for like 25 or 30.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing you can repurpose online really easily too. Like if you do interviews with some of the people that really made the company what it is today and be able to fit those in there, then you can piece that out online and use it for branding or whatever else you might want to be trying to draw interest in
Yeah.
other
It's
channels.
kind of a big lift. But I mean I think it's quite worth it. Um, and like to even maybe do like a company facing one just for people at the company, just having like some of the internal milestones of like different employees could, I don't know, it just kind of makes you feel warm.
Yeah, it's one of those ways to celebrate yourself that'll last for a lot longer than a party would. Yeah, that's a good call, Jenny.
Yeah.
Also, welcome to the show, Jenny Wang, everybody.
Designer extraordinaire.
Yeah, we've been trying to get Jenny on the show for a long time.
I don't know
Yes.
how I missed it.
If you have any burning design questions, Jenny is here for you.
That's true.
Noelle, did you say you had a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks for catching that. So one of the biggest, I guess, roadblocks or issues that I have running in with my boss on this, because like Jenny had mentioned videos or someone had mentioned videos, and I really want to hit that point because it really brings out a good human element piece to it. But my boss is always like one, I don't want to waste, like for example, if I sat down and recorded an interview with and did a piece with the president or CEO of the company, he was like, I don't want to waste their time. And then two, it's just like, oh, you can just do a voiceover. And while that is fine, I think the human element piece, especially for 20 years, is a big thing. So if anyone has any suggestions or hints on how to really approach that in a different way, um, throw them out there, because I'm getting like stopped every time.
I mean,
So
I would
are you
argue
getting
that
feedback from your team, like from the president who's like, I don't want to be involved, or are you just like nervous to ask?
No, it's my boss
Oh,
that's saying no. The president is for it. Like he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. But my boss is like, no, you don't need to waste their time. Like, it's something you can just then just voice over or whatever. So I'm just like,
I would push past that because like this is a really meaningful, like respectfully,
no,
pushing past
yes,
that.
yes, completely.
Yeah, but I think it's such a meaningful thing, and if you're able just to, like, if they've already expressed interest, like your president, your CEO has already expressed interest, pull them in. be intentional with that time, try and get as much out of it as possible, like, schedule it on their calendar. And, if you only get 30 minutes, that's 30 minutes, right? Of something that you can use and repurpose, even if it's just pure internal alignment on the strategy of where they're
Right.
going in the next 20 years. Like that's super, super valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's valuable enough for him to be on a sales call ever, or to be on, like, this is you representing yourself outward for infinity. I don't know what would be more worth his time than being able to be a part of a 20-year highlight.
Yeah, I would agree. I think also just having relevant examples of other like big companies doing like 20-year celebrations or 30-year celebrations, and kind of seeing how they do it. I personally think like, just taking Apple, for example, like what's more impactful, like videos of like Steve Jobs doing like TED Talks, launching like Apple's new product or whatever, or like the weird voiceovers they do nowadays where they just have like the Siri voice talking to you, and being like, this is what you can do with iMessage. It's like, well, yeah, obviously one of them feels a little bit more um like someone who owns this company who cares about this product that they're launching versus like I don't even know who is talking to me, right?
It's a difference between product education and brand building.
Exactly. Because that authority goes like the same amount as having a high profile celebrity cameo come in. Even though they might not know that face, they know what that position means.
And if there's an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, like you can toss in a couple extra questions at the end that might not necessarily be related to the anniversary, but could be used for other things, just to make the most time or make the most of the time that you have with the higher level people in your company. So you just have content you can use for other things down the road as well.
Perfect.
This
Thanks,
chat
guys.
is a goldmine of ideas for anniversary celebrations. I can't even restate them all. I just want you all to know how that, like, this is why it's so fun to be here. Thanks for contributing, everyone. Where should we go next?
Do we talk YouTube ads? Mary had a question about YouTube ads from a while back. And that's something I'm honestly curious about as well, because I've been thinking about trying to push more YouTube ads and wanting to write, cute scripts, or I don't know, trying to find what the best avenue is for B2B in YouTube that isn't just your typical product video. Because that's no fun. So I would be very curious to hear what other people have done with that, because we've dabbled with it a little bit and had some success, but I would love to get knee deep into that.
I'm doing a budget or a $10 a day budget for one of my clients. We're just doing like the skippable ads, and we did it as like an initial test, and it's been working pretty well, I'd say. It's only been running for a few months. We started at the middle of the year, and we're already getting in those "How did you hear about us?" forms, like people are saying on YouTube. I think like YouTube in general is kind of like this channel that a lot of manufacturers and industrial companies are sleeping on. It's a search engine in and of itself. Folks go there to look for answers, and look for education, and it's just a different way to um, consume that information. And I'm not saying you have to create all this like long form content, but like in the vein of YouTube ads, you can show up and like on some of that long form content that already exists, that other creators are trying to monetize. Like you can capitalize on that. You can take advantage of it. So I think like there's some organic potential on YouTube that we should all be thinking about in our strategies, like for the long haul. But for YouTube ads, yeah, I mean, you don't have to spend a ton. to start gaining traction, to get impressions. And I think like the way skippable ads work, I mean, it's really not expensive at all, because I'm pretty sure you only pay if they watch the video for longer than like 30 seconds or something, for some of those. So, I mean, they can see a lot of you before you actually have to pay for that impression.
My one advice on that though is please show the product working in the place that the product will be used. Don't jump to the talking head right away, because that'll kill your engagement. Actually show the product in its setting where the end user will recognize it, if at all possible. It kills me whenever it's just a shot of the product still with no context of why it is better than any other one you would have sitting around.
To that point, Alan, avoid the tendency to just do a logo splash at the beginning of your video. Like, just people see that, they don't care, you know. So action shot at the front, whether it's a product shot or just something like it's going to grab their attention. You're looking for a stop sign, and I'm telling you right now, that logo splash is, you're gonna get California stops all day long. Like, that is it. No one's gonna stay.
I'd say when in doubt, show the thing you're selling. That's what they're here for, first and foremost. All right, moving back on to the questions. What about people's brand awareness goals? Rachel had that question in the chat. Rachel, you want to come on and talk about that? Is she still with us?
I see her. She might be in the office.
Well, I'll read on her question a little bit. But she says that brand awareness goals are on her strategy list for 2025 for a few of their branch locations, and they're looking for any great awareness campaign tips or experiences. And I'd say when it comes to brand, you have to do a little bit more work than trying to promote a product. You have to build almost a persona around your brand. Like, it has to have an identity and a personality and opinions, maybe even. I know opinions scare some people, that is consistent and feels whole ad after ad after ad. You almost think of the ads more as a series of introductions. And we talk about in the content department kind of creating brand voice or a brand character are things that have rules and settings on how they communicate to the audience. That's really important to establish, everyone feels good about within the company, and that you can project consistently outward. And then when it comes to that messaging, being specific around the problems that you are the best at solving and the customers that you are the most loved by, that you can use to start to shape what they need to hear to build more customers like them. I don't know, I'm rambling now. Peyton, what do you think?
I was looking at other questions. I know we're running short on time. I'm sorry.
Oh shoot, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, no.
Any more questions?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. We've had a lot to go through, but I think to just jump to another one, I almost want to pull it back to something, Jared, you put in the chat earlier. You were asking about SEO. I'm hearing this a ton. I'm hearing folks are very interested in SEO. It's in the roadmap for a lot of my clients in 2025. We don't currently have, I mean, I'm still kind of shaping the sessions for 2025 for this show. Alan and Sarah and I have been meeting to talk about that. What I'm curious about is, what do you guys want to know more about when it comes to SEO? Just like generally speaking, what are you looking to learn?
This is the part where you all talk.
Is it cool to unmute real quick?
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
share.
Please,
I've been keeping a close eye on everything changing with Search GPT and just how the search market is evolving a lot from, Google's always going to be king, but they are losing some space there. And I've been keeping a really close eye because I've been noticing some of our form fills on our website, people either attributing a ChatGPT or some sort of AI chatbot. We're actually seeing it filtering in more in our Google Analytics as well. So I'm trying to get ahead of the curve on how to plan for capturing more of that space as search is going away from Google, from younger generations. As we have a lot of young engineers that we interact with who are starting to use those pretty consistently.
Yeah, thank you.
Showing them.
We had another raised hand out there too. Was it Adrian?
Oh yeah, I got the same question, because I attended the Brighton SEO conference, and yeah, they started to talk about the search traffic, so I mean, definitely Google is still the top dog, but yeah, ChatGPT, it's slowly creeping in, and a few other AI search engines, like Perplexity, and a few Gemini's, slowly they are taking some of the Google chunk.
Yeah, good insights there. And I'm sure that that's just going to continue to progress in the same way for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I don't really know how to like win that game at this point, but I think we could look into it more and try and figure out like more direction in 2025. The other, like where my brain goes first and foremost is it's still a search engine, people are using it like a search engine. They're asking it specific questions and they're asking it for answers. So if you're gonna write content in a way that answers those questions, you'll get pulled from. So I don't know how to like guarantee that you'll get pulled from though at this point. I don't know how you make sure that with Google, you map your site, you upload to Google Search Console and you say, here's my website, here's all the content I have, catalog it. How do you do the same thing with ChatGPT? Is that possible yet? I don't know the answer to it, but that's where I would look. And then just thinking still about writing meaningful content.
It's amazing how we always come back to that.
I know, but actually thinking about okay, how do you what are the levers with it? It's an interesting conversation to have, Jared. I think we should definitely put it on the roadmap.
Yeah, more to come. All right. Well, we are
I know, but there's one more, just one more.
Okay, all right. I'll let you have it, Peyton, just for you.
Okay, Jill, if you're still here, I saw your question in I see Jill's still here. Jill, if you want to unmute and tell us more about your situation. I'm just really you're a one-woman show. I think that's incredible. We want to support you. So yeah, go ahead, ask your question. Let's crowdsource a little bit.
Okay, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, I'm in this position of a heavy equipment dealer. And I'm currently at the corporate level working with 12 branches. But yeah, so I was, brought on after 20 years in manufacturing. And so now I'm, trying to build out a team. And I've always worked where it's just me, but I'm also working with some some agencies. But yeah, I'm looking to see who would be the first type of position that I'm looking for. Right now I can't keep up with social media, so my thought was social media content creator first and foremost, and then go from there. But wanted to get thoughts.
If there's folks in the audience who've experienced this, feel free to unmute at any point. But I'll jump in with I think where you're starting, Jill, is smart. You're thinking, what tasks do I need to be completed? And then what type of role would make sense to fill? So I would almost map out, you know, almost like start with your overarching strategy, like what direction do you want the marketing program to grow in? And yes, okay, social media, content creator, that's a great role, but what else? You know, like what else do you need help with? Because if you're just going to give them that one deliverable, it's not really like, maybe you could outsource that with a freelancer or an agency partner to kind of like help support that instead of bringing on a full-time person. But
Right.
that's, I would definitely kind of think about the same thing, like almost like write the job description a little bit,
Mhm.
based on what your roadmap is.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, as far as the agency, I mean, we have two different agencies that we're using. One agency is doing our web development and our digital ads. The other agency is doing more of our advertisements and social media ads. So, yeah, I'm kind of, again, I need help with kind of the day-to-day things, and so I could focus more on the bigger picture of the strategies moving forward, and how we're going to be more proactive. Right now, we're very reactive to, you know, for lead gen and for, but you know, there's opportunities to be more proactive with reaching out to our customers. We're more, yeah. So I think that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, and a suggestion from the chat was to maybe go for more of a general content creator and not narrow down so much if you're going to bring that role in-house, so that you can have them working on blogs or SEO content, or even maybe even, oh God, print media if you wanted to.
Mhm.
Press releases, we talked about those earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's smart. The phrasing that I keep seeing, and like if you want to kind of pull from even like the journalist background, which I think is really smart because they're comfortable with interviews, things like that. We try and like actually hire a lot of former journalists at Gorilla for our writing positions, and like multimedia is a good way to like talk about that. Like they're multimedia content creators.
And if you just give them healthcare, they're going to be over the moon.
Oh, Alan speaks from experience.
Yeah, the former reporter.
All right. Well, I'm sad it's the last show of the year. I don't want it to end. There's been so many great questions in the chat. I'll definitely be reviewing this. We'll use this as a good like launch point for our sessions in 2025, because yes, we are coming back in 2025. We will be here. Our first show of the year is going to be January 16th. We're still going to do first and third Thursdays, your standard time. So we appreciate y'all coming, and we hope that you will plan to join us again. We'll send out the registration link too shortly. So the other little thoughts that I just wanted to share is that at the end of this year, we're also closing the Slack community that we had started like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now. So farewell Slack, but hello Circle. The Industrial Marketing Collective is going to be on Circle SO, and there's discussion boards there. It's free to join. So if you are an industrial marketer and you want to be part of those conversations, feel free to reach out to Alan, myself, Grace, Jenny, anyone from Gorilla on LinkedIn, and we can tell you how to get started. It's also industrialmarketingcollective.com. And then if you are thinking about ways to get involved in 2025 and you want to kind of put this in your roadmap, you can join us in Austin for the Industrial Marketing Summit. I just wanted to put that in everyone's ear. It's 2 months away now. Can't believe it. Really excited. We've got some folks on this call who I already know are going to be there, and we'd love to see more of y'all. So thank you for a great year, everyone. Alan, Sarah, Grace, Jenny, Noelle, everyone else who joined, thank you.